Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Wasserman Lande. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. Today is January 8th, 2024. It is now 460 days that 100 people, including 2 young children, women, and the elderly, are still held in Hamas's brutal captivity. Let my people go. UNRWA's European leadership has for years coordinated with terrorist organizations. How do we know? Well, they posted it online, and UN Watch collected the evidence and compiled a report clearly showing the links between UNRWA and the Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, PFLP, and DFLP. These are internationally banned terror groups listed by the EU, US, and many other countries. Let's look at the last 2 UNRWA heads. Pierre Kranbull headed UNRWA until 2019. In one 2017 meeting in Lebanon, Kranbull was photographed with representatives of 6 terror groups. Kranbull told them, "If you challenge our decisions, we will change them or tear them up." In other words, UNRWA chief tells terrorists, if you feel uncomfortable about something which we, the UN agency, does, please feel free to let us know, and we shall go out of our way to accommodate your wishes. Kranbull asked that the spirit of the partnership not be public because of a loss of trust between the funding countries and UNRWA. Got it? UNRWA wants to keep up the act for the donors, so the cash keeps flowing. Kranbull was forced out of UNRWA due to a corruption and sexual abuse scandal. And now, believe it or not, Kranbull runs the Red Cross. You just cannot make the stuff up. Seriously? Ousted on a corruption and sexual abuse scandal, quote unquote, from the UN Watch report, and selected to head the most senior humanitarian medical aid organization worldwide. Philippe Lazzarini now heads UNRWA. Lazzarini regularly met with terror groups too, like in 2022, the meeting with PFLP and DFLP. In that meeting, Lazzarini stressed the importance of, you got it, partnership. Lazzarini even met with Hamas leader in Lebanon in May 2024, after Hamas October 7th massacre. In that meeting, he agreed that Hamas's leader in Lebanon would keep his senior UNRWA roles. This leader, Fathi al-Sharif, was eliminated by Israel in September 2024. What's more, Lazzarini just a few months ago said on the BBC that he has no way to know whether Hamas infiltrated UNRWA. I mean, honestly, UNRWA not only hired Hamas operatives as senior decision makers in the agency, but also diverted hundreds of millions to this terrorist organization. I salute the Netherlands and Sweden for ending UNRWA funding just a few weeks ago. But it's time for all governments to join them and defund UNRWA. Now, on a different matter, incoming US President Trump once again threatened Hamas if they don't let our hostages go. He demanded Hamas free the hostages before he takes office. Otherwise, all hell will break loose. Now, what does that mean? What can he do? A lot. Hamas's leaders are hosted by Qatar and Turkey. The US has huge leverage over Qatar, as billions of US dollars are in Doha in US military bases, which may be moved to a different location. The US can also influence Turkey, a key supporter of Sunni radical Islam and of Hamas by threatening its NATO membership. The US can also be instrumental in eliminating the Iranian regime's nuclear capabilities. The US can restore significant financial sanctions so Iran will no longer have the cash to feed their proxies, including Hamas. The US can also stop pressing Israel to deliver tons and tons of humanitarian aid into Gaza that funds Hamas's continued terror. The US can also make sure that the indoctrination and incitement which is fed to millions of Palestinians in Gaza and Judea and Samaria is no longer funded by the naive international arena. So you see, the current situation is not inevitable. It can be changed. Let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you so much, Ruth. This first question comes from Instagram. We've heard about Hamas leaks and Hamas refusing to say which hostages are even alive. Are there any updates about a hostage deal?
So first, thank you for that question, because most important is our hostages and bringing them home. Now, the person in charge of the missing persons in Israel, Brigadier General in Reserves Gal Hirsch, is spending 2 days actually holding working meetings with visiting officials from the US, from the UK, from Canada, from Germany and Austria who are in Israel in order to try and work out how to get those hostages back out of Hamas captivity. But I must tell you something. The fact that Hamas has not even said who is alive and who is dead is something that I put back to the international arena. I don't expect anything from the Hamas. They lie, they cheat, they rape, they massacre, they burn, they kill. They are a designated terrorist organization, and they have no honesty, no virtue whatsoever. I expect from the international arena to cry out against the inhumanity of holding women, children, men that have done nothing, that didn't even hold weapons, and holding them against any international legal background in captivity for over 400 days. It is despicable and unacceptable.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Viv on Instagram. Why have the New York Times and other big news outlets not taken up the story on UNRWA?
First of all, the international media has a narrative. In fact, most of the international media has a narrative, not all. There are a few shining stars that have simply had the courage and the moral clarity to be frank about what on earth is happening to humanity. But to think of a UN agency that is financed by the taxpayers' money of yourselves, that is actually funding terrorism. And this has been proved. This is not Israel's research. This is internationally known already. In fact, the UN Watch just proved it, just taken out a report saying that. And God knows that the UN Watch is not in favor of Israel or the Jewish people particularly. They say that UNRWA has done what it's done. How can the international media continue to simply look away and not put a spotlight on what's happening? I ask you another thing. How could the grooming affair of young British girls in the UK have been overlooked? The media, the international media, has a role to bring the truth to the international public. And in the same manner as the grooming affair was not enough reported in the same way UNRWA and the horrific things that are happening right now to our hostages at the hands of a designated terror organization in Hamas is not being picked up enough by the international media.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Our next question comes from YouTube. What, if anything, would you put in place to replace UNRWA?
For the moment, no UN agency can be trusted. They have not done their job, whether it's UNIFIL in the north, to try and have the Hezbollah move away and disarm. They have not done their job in Gaza in any way. They were meant to take care of the Palestinian refugees. In fact, make the number smaller as they bring them jobs, have them have homes, and so on. The exact opposite has been happening for decades on the taxpayers' money of the international arena and its public. What needs to be done at this moment as a first, before a different agency or a different body or a different anything can take UNRWA's place, is have the Hamas disarm itself or be disarmed by the IDF and bring our hostages back. Then the population of Gaza can go back to rebuilding, to having education, to having sustainable sources of income. The Hamas is preventing that from their own people. And this as well is a human tragedy. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. But tomorrow at the same time at 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. East Coast time, we hope to see you again. Thank you so much for being with us.